Starting in fourth, the 600 of Lewis Chamberlain. In fifth is the 6017 of Gary Messer. Starting in sixth, the 6084 of Bruce Fincham. In seventh, the 6080 of Richard Cassie. And starting in eighth, in the 6012 is going to be Gary Williams Jr. Now we're starting to pick up the pace a little bit. After this, Scott, is going to be our Pro Light. We're going to slowly get to the meat and potatoes of our Off-Road Championship Series here for this weekend with our Pro Light, Pro 4, and Pro 2. Right now, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit in our Trophy Light trucks. Scott, tell me a little bit about these trucks.
First time ever Trophy Lights have been here with the Torque Series, and they're scheduled to be running with the series full-time next year. Trophy Lights are obviously downsized trucks, a little bit smaller than a Pro Light you're going to see later on. They're running 4-cylinder Ecotec motors. Initially designed when they came out, let's see, I want to say 2 years ago, initially designed to be run real quick from a desert setup to a short course setup, and this is the first time we've ever seen them in a short course arena. So a lot of these guys you got to slam these things down, make them lower, so it handles a short course, turns a little bit better than a desert. But I want to say I have upwards of 20 inches of travel front and rear. Again, I want to say probably about 300 horsepower, maybe a little bit less, but very reliable Ecotec motors, not a lot to them. They're all basically have the Chevy-style downsized body styles, but from what I understand from Brett Fouch that he's got, there's some new style bodies coming out to make them look a little bit racier, a little bit more like trucks. But you know what? They're also running on, it's basically a spec class. They're running on spec all-terrain tires that are not grooved. So we're going to see some skating around quite a bit, I'm sure.
Well, here's our head starter there in the Oakley flag stand, and it's green, 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 and keep your eyes on them. Here they come. And that's going to be the 6-0 of Glenn Wolf now. He drops to the inside. This is a guy I met early on today was the 6011 of Mike Childress. This guy says, hey, I got the juice to cut it loose. Now watch him, Scott. It's a quagmire, 3 wide as they come out of turn number 1.
And you can see that these trucks that are out there right now were pretty much designed or set up right now to be run in the desert. You can see that by their lights in the back of the truck, the amber, the blues, the reds. The reds are the brake lights. The amber are on all the time. So in dusty conditions of the desert, you can see that amber through that dark cloud of dust. So they still have the desert setup. A lot of these guys weren't able to, on a time factor, convert them down to the setup of a short course. But keep in mind, just like the big trucks, these things are going to gain 300-400 pounds of mud by the end of the race. So they might well keep them set up for a desert.
Well, you can see them, Scott, just like you said, with their tire selection there. A lot of trucks are slip sliding around, but you got one guy that's starting to break away from the rest of the field now. He's starting to stretch his legs out as he comes down the front straightaway. Let's get a look at him. He's got his truck set up real good, and that is, I think we called this guy out. Is that going to be Childress out there?
I believe that's Louis Chamberlain right now in the 6,000.
Yes, you are correct, sir.
One in a row.
There's the 6080. There goes Richard Cassie now coming down that front straightaway.
And I wouldn't be afraid to say keep your eye on Mikey Childress because he's got some short course experience, having run in the Pro 2 a few years ago. But again, this is the first time these things have been on this track. There's still muddy conditions. You see dust kind of appearing in areas underneath that mud where the mud getting pushed aside. But keep in mind, these things are not running on grooved tires. They're basically the same exact tires you buy off the shelf, a spec tire, all-terrain.
Well, you're definitely going to see the pace of these trucks out there now, and wait to see the Pro Light. It's going to get faster and faster and faster. Here comes your leader right there. And it looks like Lewis Chamberlain now has found his way. He's broken away from the rest of the field as he brings the machine out of turn 4 and heads down that big, long straightaway.
You can see that seems to have that truck set up a little bit different than everybody else. How low that truck is sitting in the back. But then watch the just pounds and pounds of mud drop off these trucks when they land off these jumps, and then about 1 or 2 more turns, that mud's sticking right back to the chassis again.
Just like you said, Scott, I'm watching Childress now back and forth. He comes down the big front straightaway, and he just hammers. Now Childress now in a battle for third. As Childress now really airs it out coming down that front straightaway. Just taking a beating in there. But here he comes. He drops to the inside now. And he looks like he works the inside with fine fashion. Textbook maneuver now, as he's got a fight, a dog fight in hand between second and third right now. And Childress now has got company now, and the driver in the green truck now is trying to work it in that long back straightaway down out of turn number 2. And look at there, carnage. And Childress now moves all the way up in the second. What do you think about that, Scott Raines? There's our leader right there. It's going to be Lewis Chamberlain now with a half a track lead, but like you said, competition yellow. Childress now in a good position now. Let's see what happens as this story starts to unfold.
You know, Childress has got a lot of different experience in trophy trucks and in cars.
That's going to be Gary
like,
Messer back in third now, Scott.
You know, I just wonder, as Childress goes into the infield, that left-hand turn, it looks like the front body parts of that truck are starting to flop around a little bit. That could be a problem as the race wears on. Mud or not, that thing could be breaking off, and that could flap into the cockpit area and blocking the vision.
Well, here we go. Your leader now coming down the front straightaway, Lewis Chamberlain. But now watch the race back in second, in third as they head out of turn number 3. Through the big sweeper into 4. Here he comes. It's going to be Mike Childress, but watch out. Gary Messer now is not messing around with this one. And like you said, you can watch that. Look at the front of Childress' truck now. It's starting to maybe come apart on him.